Getting out of the Army can be a little bit scary, right? You are used to a steady paycheck, and then now you're going out into the civilian world, and if you've never really experienced that as an adult, it can be pretty scary. I'm Christopher Chaos, and this is the first year after leaving the Army. What's up, my friends? Today I want to talk to you about what it was like the very first year after I left the United States Army after doing almost 11 years. It was definitely a little bit scary. There's probably some things that I learned that maybe I can help you out with if you are in that situation, or maybe one day going to be in that situation, to understand some things that maybe I did wrong that maybe you can learn from and maybe try to avoid. If you don't know, my intention was always to eventually leave the Army, not to stay in 20 plus years, retire, but to initially do 4 years and then get out and use that, kind of military background to lead to something great. 4 years ended up turning into almost 11, and that's a long story, and I think I have a video that actually covers that though, but let's focus more on what it was like that initial very first year when I was out of the United States Army. So I had a little bit of terminal leave, which is kind of basically you save up some leave time, and that makes it to where you get out of the Army, and then the rest of the time, however many vacation days you have, you're kind of still in the Army, still getting paid by the Army, but not having to show up to work anymore. You're already done. You've already gotten rid of all your gear. You've already essentially kind of gotten out of the Army, but you're still sort of in the Army. But I did that in January of 2010, and then I didn't actually leave the Army officially until March of 2010. So I had a couple of months where I was still earning that steady Army paycheck and can kind of start working on what was my plan, what was I going to do. And I probably should have had a better plan before getting out, but I think I was kind of just excited about like finally getting out, because I'd been trying to do it for so long, and then now we were finally there, and I kind of just focused so much on the excitement and not really what a good solid plan was going to be. I was really just kind of hoping to land a good job. I was hoping that maybe my military experience would be great and amazing, and people would be like, man, this guy spent a lot of years in the Army, he's probably super cool and really great, and I don't know. I thought that maybe, that long military background and, maybe combat experience could lead to something amazing, which eventually it did, but not initially. So I started off doing like job fairs, and my experience with job fairs was not great. That may vary from location to location and depending on who's there, but I went to a couple of job fairs, and really all it was a lot of employers that, tell you a little bit about the jobs that they do at their company, and then tell you to go visit their website to learn more and apply for some positions if there's any openings on the website. It wasn't really like what I expected it to be. I think I expected it to be more like almost like job interviews, right? I guess I don't know if that's realistic to think that that's what it was going to be, but I thought I was going to show up to these locations, talk to some employer a little bit about my background, and then if they were interested in me, then they would kind of sort of do like an on-the-spot, job interview, and then be like, oh yeah, you're great, maybe we'll consider you, and then give me either a card or something like that, and I give them my card or give them my contact information. They'd be like, reach out to you if you're someone who want to, go further with this type of thing. Another thing at these job fairs was there was a lot of recruiters. There was actually a lot of like Air Force, Marines, Army recruiters trying to recruit people for the military. And I was, trying to avoid those stations. I was like, that's kind of what I'm going away from. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get a cool, solid job that would be interesting, that maybe could benefit from my military experience or something like that. I remember there was like a trucking company one that they did, I think, like military trucking, so they would go like overseas to like Kuwait and everything, and I think even maybe Iraq too. But I didn't really want to be away from the United States, and I want to go like spend months and months and months trucking in a hazardous environment. If I really wanted to do that, I could have just stayed in the Army possibly. So the job fairs were not working well. I was a little bit worried, starting to get a little bit kind of scared about what was my civilian life going to entail, really. You really have to like work on a good resume too. I mean, that's kind of a part of it too. Like I had done some stuff through, they had a program then called ACAP. They have another version of that. And then I think I've heard stories that maybe they're getting rid of that whole thing, and maybe they do it in a different way, but they did some like resume building classes that I would do to learn how to build resumes. But, I still don't know if I had it quite down as like maybe I would now type of thing, but having a good resume to show your experience and cater it towards the employer is really key. I don't think I was really catering to the employer. I think I was really just trying to make it seem like I did some cool stuff in the Army, and hopefully that was going to be good enough. I had some money saved. I didn't save up a lot. I mean, it was still a pretty good chunk, but if I had saved more, started earlier, did something else, I don't know, I could have saved a lot more money. I think I had about $10,000 saved, which is pretty decent, to keep me afloat once my military income, ended in March, but it wasn't gonna, keep afloat forever. I eventually need some kind of income to come through. I ended up deciding that I was gonna go to school. I was gonna use the Montgomery GI Bill to get an education, and I can use the money to still pay bills, but also get an education that can maybe hopefully lead to something great. Now, I did the Montgomery GI Bill, so it's different than the post 9/11 GI Bill, because the post 9/11 will pay the school directly and then pay you BAH, and I think they even give you like a stipend for books and everything. The Montgomery GI Bill works a little bit differently. The Montgomery GI Bill, that one would pay you a monthly amount, but you're supposed to use that monthly amount to pay for schooling. So my idea was that because the monthly amount that they paid you to be able to pay for school and help out with a little bit of bills, sort of, I guess kind of a thing, depending on how cheap your school was, the idea was that I could take that money that was a little bit more than the BAH I would receive from the GI Bill, and then get grants to pay for the schooling. So then all the money I was getting from the GI Bill would actually be like a BAH, even though they don't pay you BAH for the Montgomery GI Bill, but I'd use that kind of like BAH to help pay for cost of living, and then the grants would pay for my schooling. So I did it that way, and I probably made a mistake and by doing another little extra step to try to definitely still help out with bills, and that was I also did student loans. So I had the grants that were paying from the school, I had the little bit of money that I was getting from the GI Bill to help with bills. I think that's only like $1,600 a month, which depending on how many bills you have, may not be enough to cover everything for like mortgage and car insurance and groceries and everything else, utilities, all that. So I did student loans to also help with that. That did make it to where I did have some student loan debt, which took a long ass time to pay off. But I don't know if there's other ways I probably could have done it to maybe avoid that, because that stuff does build up, and then you end up with these student loans that take 10 years, 20 years, whatever to pay off. I think it took me like 10 years-ish or something like that to kind of pay it off, because I was just making a lot of the minimum payments type of thing, nothing too crazy, and then eventually paid it off though. So that's what I was doing. I was going to school and I was doing it for television and radio. And my idea was that, I guess, I'm into video production. Maybe I could either try to start my own video production company or go work for maybe a local news agency, because that was a lot of what the schooling was kind of geared towards, was like news agency stuff. So my idea was try to use that education to get a job in that kind of field. Now, the success part of it that finally did lead to having a better solid income isn't necessarily something that everybody can be able to accomplish. I mean, you can, but some of it is based on a little bit of luck and who you know, because I knew someone that was working at my current job. They were working there, and I had ran into them while I was still in the Army and told them to let me know if something opens up, because I think this would be a great job and I'm interested in it. So a position did open up. I was still doing school full time, so I couldn't do it actually then. I was like, oh crap, I really want to do this, but I'm still in school full time, so I have classes during the day and the semester's not over for another couple more months. So I got really lucky, because it turned out that, that person told me, was like, okay, well, there is another position that'll probably be opening up in a couple more months because there's another person leaving. So possibly that position, I probably could get that one. And so when that one did open up, because I already knew someone on the inside, it definitely helped me get into that job to work on Fort Carson, to be an instructor for soldiers doing training on Fort Carson. That's not always something available to everybody, but there are ways to get jobs like that. Like if that's something you're trying to get when you get out of the Army, you just usually have to find the right contracting companies to check their websites, but also like mainly popular ones like Indeed, Monster. I think there's a securityclearance.com website or something like that posts military related jobs for people that have military experience that potentially you could try to find. But I was lucky enough that kind of just fell into my lap type of thing, sort of. That may not always be the case for you, but that's how you can get, possibly into those types of jobs. You try to find out, let's say, if Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, or whoever the contracting company is that does particular work on that installation that maybe you're trying to get, and you want to stay near like an Army installation or a military installation, then you have to check their websites and see what's available for those areas. If you're not trying to do anything, near a military installation, you want to go back home or to an area that doesn't even have a military installation, then you might have to come up with your own plan. But definitely having a better plan than what I had is definitely probably recommended. I don't feel like I had a very solid plan, and it was a little bit kind of just winging it for that first year after I got out of the Army. I wasn't too sure. I was really just excited to be out of the Army, free of it, I guess, and because I'd been doing it for so long that I was just ready to experience what it was like to be a civilian, to live on my own and not, because it still kind of feels like you live with your parents almost sometimes when you're single, living in the Army, and then you want to get free of all that. So that's kind of, the excitement kind of overwhelmed me, I guess. If I was to go back in time and try to fix some of the things, I would have saved more money, saved for a longer amount of time before getting out of the Army. I would have worked harder to understand how to build better resumes and how to find the jobs that I really want to kind of aim for, to learn how to cater my resume to that and how to appeal to those employers. I should have probably been doing this months prior. Shouldn't have been a thing where I was doing it after I got out of the Army. I should have been months prior putting out resumes, talking to employers, trying to see if, there were people they were hiring in the job field that I really wanted to get into, rather than trying to figure that out after I was out of the Army. I was pretty busy in my last couple months getting out of the Army, because my unit really needs me to do things, because the person that was kind of replacing what I did was not fully up to speed to be able to do the task at the level of knowledge that I knew on it. So they weren't very comfortable with letting that person just kind of take over and me kind of doing my own thing to get ready to get out of the Army. So I kind of had to continue doing what I was doing, so that way that person could learn a little bit better how to do the things that I was doing. For my veteran viewers out there, I want to hear, what was your first year out of the Army like? Comment down below, let me know. Was it pretty hectic? Did you have a good plan? Did you kind of have to wing it? What was your story? Was it, did it go as smooth as you hoped for, or what was kind of your process? So what was the very first year like when you got out of the Army? Even if you were in just the Air Force or something else, what was it like getting out of the military? And then for my individuals that are not yet in the Army, not yet in the military, do you already have a plan? Do you already have an idea of what you want to do? Whether that's to do 20 plus years and then retire maybe from active duty Army and then go get another job after that just to earn some more money, do your own thing, or maybe even do 4 or 5, whatever years, and then get out and go to school or go to get a different type of job. But I want to know, what's your thoughts right now prior to joining the military? What is your ideal plan for when you do get out of the Army or out of the military for that first year when you get out? Now, if you're someone who hasn't joined the Army yet, then it's probably a good idea to also probably know what you want to do in the Army, and maybe to help kind of get things going, I have a video on some of the cool jobs that are in the Army that maybe you don't know about. So check this video out right here, hit that thumbs up, check out links down in the description box, leave me some comments. Thanks for hanging out. I'm Christopher Chaos. See you next time. See ya.